Whenever you're ready.
All right. Hello, my name's Dunmire, and I'm going to be talking about ESPN and the ESPN app. So, who created ESPN? It was created by Bill Rasmussen and Scott Rasmussen, which is Bill's son. So 80% of it now today, ESPN is owned by ABC, which is a subsidiary of the Walt Disney Company, and 20% is owned by Hearst, which is a social media TV company. And they came up with the idea of ESPN when they were stuck in a traffic jam in interstate in Connecticut. So the father and son came up with the idea of an easier access to sports, and here we are today with ESPN. That was their old logo when they first started, and the new logo today. And ESPN's main headquarters are still located in Bristol, Connecticut today. So their first broadcast was on September 7th, 1979, and it was hosted by Lee Leonard. And the first words that came out of his mouth and out of anything for ESPN was, if you're a fan, what you'll see in the next minutes, hours, and days to follow may convince you've gone to sports heaven. And that was a picture from his first broadcast, and they turned it into a Topps card. So this is kind of like a list of ESPN's like primary businesses. So they have 7 cable networks and ESPN on ABC. So their direct-to-consumer, which is really us, is the ESPN Plus that launched in April 2018. That's where you can see all of the live sports events and games with a paid subscription, obviously. They also have their audio ESPN radio network and sports talk programming. Digital, they have their ESPN.com, and then the ESPN Fantasy Sports, ESPN Bet, and like all the other ESPN 3s, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to the ESPN Ocho. And then overseas, they are everywhere pretty much too. And then also like event management with the SBs, college bowls, basketball events, baseball, you can name it. So the app in general, it was initially called Watch ESPN, and it was released in April 2011 with all Apple and Android devices. They really newly revamped the app in April 2018 when they launched it with its integration of ESPN Plus, so now everything's just combined into one app together. They are the #1 sports streaming platform in the world, and they have access more to 27,000 live sports events each year. So this is a video of like what the app looks like in general. Okay, there we go. So you have your home page where they'll highlight just a bunch of different things going on today, and then live scores of whatever sports you could think of going on. So this was last night with NBA, NHL, and the Players Tours going on with golf. This is the watch page where if you download the app, this is a lot of the mainstream stuff that are on your cable networks and stuff like that that you can watch for free with the app. And then ESPN Plus has everything with your paid subscription, so you could get access to almost every single sport you could think of just live right there. And then there was a couple things going on. So those are for the paid subscriptions, like a lot of those you can't get. And then they have a more page which just shows all the sports too, and if you click on it, it'll give you different like links to articles or what's going on, their radio, and then their bet stuff and their fantasy also. So that's pretty much what the app just looks like in general. So their revenue, last fiscal quarter, which was October to December of 2024, they made about $4.85 billion, and their segment operating gained 247, which is all their different like news stations, like the Pat McAfee podcast, what they do the late night with the highlights and stuff like that. They're projecting a 13% increase in operating income for this current fiscal quarter going on right now. And ESPN Plus actually helped Disney earn millions of dollars with the combination of their package deal with Disney, ESPN Plus, and Hulu. Disney was actually losing money from not being in the sports streaming business, and like I said, ESPN helped them earn millions of dollars with that. So the relation to social media, like I said earlier, it's the biggest sports streaming platform in the world, and then they also have their different social media pages on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and everything else, Facebook, millions of followers on each of those. They give you real-time updates, so if you have the app downloaded on your phone and you choose to have the notifications on, you'll get an update as soon as something's going on in the sports world, like a trade, like a lot of the NFL stuff's going on right now. And then fan engagement in general, fans are able to comment on those posts, reshare them or whatever, and do all that stuff. And then across the country, they are through 191 countries and 7 continents that ESPN reaches. And here's just a couple quick facts. So 75% of US adults use or watch ESPN, and then over 209 million unique fans, and this was all updated in January of this year. So they're the #1 sports app category for fantasy and just to watch in general, in 970 million engagements, and for 43 consecutive months, they have had the most fan interactions. So some pros and cons about the app and ESPN in general. Pros, so there's thousands of games to watch and events. Real-time updates, like I said, with all sport coverage like with all your sports. And then they also have ESPN Bet and Fantasy. So ESPN Bet is their own gambling website, and then they have fantasy between basketball, football, hockey, baseball, all that good stuff. Some cons of it, to download ESPN Plus, it costs money. So if you don't download it, you won't get access to everything. Some people say they have bias towards teams and other sports, and then even if you still download ESPN Plus, some games are blacked out in some regions. So I know, for example, here, when I try to watch a Pens game, it's always blacked out here for some reason, but I guess that might be just a Cleveland thing. So that's kind of a con for sure from that. And those are my references. Thank you.
Any questions on the app? Some of the details of, like you said, ESPN is a very massive platform. So I have a question. Just as you looked at the app, you said, I like the timeline that you gave of ESPN. Just in what you found, how do you think the development of the app itself and the ability for people to connect much more? Because I remember, when I was a kid sitting and watching ESPN on the TV, and I had to wait till 9 in the morning, and then they would have the ESPN program on. But then when they created the app, how do you think that changed the engagement, just with the way people engage?
Well, they definitely gained a lot more fans because, with the app, they just kind of combined everything into one to make it a lot easier. Also on that ESPN app, you could watch their 30 for 30s and other articles or movies that they have on there that they've made themselves. So they definitely it made it a lot easier to watch whatever you wanted to watch, depending on what that was. And it's the same thing with all the the sports programs, like the Pat McAfee show is always on there and stuff like that. So it's just a lot easier when everything's combined into one.
Sure. Like I said, a game, they probably gained more fans, or maybe had created more sports fans.
Yeah, a lot easier access with the app.
Yeah. Any other questions? Nice job. Thank you.